So I had a nice surprise recently when I noticed one of my tracks on Motion Array had got a staff pick. You might be asking, so what does this mean? Well, to composers working with Motion Array, it's a little bit like going to the top of the music streaming charts. Okay, so it's not exactly like that, but hopefully you get the idea. It means that a lot more people see your track when looking for music. These are mostly content creators who have a subscription with Motion Array, and many people won't spend hours looking for the perfect track. They are more likely to look at the first page of results for a particular genre and choose what they like and move on. Sort by staff pick is the default view when searching, so it basically gives your track a boost and gets more eyes and ears on it. When I've had staff picks in the past, it has increased my downloads by 4 or 5 times what I might get in an average month, and of course this means extra income too. My latest staff pick is an upbeat hip-hop track which you can hear playing in the background, and these types of tracks have always done very well for me on Motion Array. They are also very popular with creators and advertisers, and I hear similar tracks popping up in YouTube ads and videos fairly regularly. So I thought today I would break down my latest upbeat hip-hop track and take you through how I put it together. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm going to break down this track. It started with quite a few samples. This first track here is doing a lot of the work, and this is a sample that I got from Splice.
Oh, no, no. Girl, I know I did you wrong. Ooh, baby, I don't wanna do you wrong.
Once I put it into the quick sampler, I was able to trigger the slices from my keyboard, and this is what we get. I just thought that was a nice way to start the track. There is another vocal. So we've got that vocal sample as well coming in from time to time. Then we've got another vocal. I think this just comes in at the end of each section, so verse, chorus, etc. We get this. And if you listen to just this vocal sample and the drums, they play off one another. So the vocals give it a nice little offbeat feel there. Then we've got another, I think this is another sample from Splice. Let's have a listen to the original. Okay, and then we've got another sample here. It's all about the details with this track, so a lot of these samples on their own don't sound like much, but when they're all brought together in the right places, that's when they are most effective. Here we've got more samples. Again, I'm using Quick Sampler for this one. So let's listen to that, how it sounded originally. Quite a lot different, but obviously I've pitched it up a bit by 5 semitones, and then I'm triggering certain slices of it. Next we've got some brass. So this is actually a mix of several different VSTs. So if we unhide some of my tracks, you can see here we've got 4 tracks of horns. We've got the Logic Memphis Blast horns. We've got Contact Session horns, 2 of those. And then we've got the Sign Player, which is by Orchestral Tools. That is a brass patch called Rotary, and that's actually a free patch, so you can check that out if you want. So I played all those MIDI parts in, and then I mixed them all down to this one track here, which is called Brass Vintage. This is what it sounds like when it's chopped up. So I often do this with brass parts. I create them myself and then I resample them in some way just to give them a chopped up feel. And all of those tracks that we've just heard are sent to the sample bus. We've then got the strings, which I think I've got 3 tracks going on here with strings. The first one is Intimate Strings by 8DO, and then we've got the Heaviosity Foundations Staccato Strings, which is actually a free library, and then we have some strings which are sampled again from Splice. So all of those together. Then next we've got some guitar samples. So the wah guitar is just really adding a rhythmic element more than anything else. Today's video is sponsored by Tangerine Sounds, which is my sample website. On here you can find freebies such as this Lo-Fi Essentials sample pack. This includes drum loops, one-shots, percussion loops, keyboards, guitar loops, Atmos, vocal chops. It's all there as like a pack to get you started. Also, we've got the premium packs that I offer, such as the Lo-Fi Keys, which is a MIDI and audio sample pack. In here we've got 50 chord sequences that you can use for lo-fi hip-hop. You can either use the MIDI or you can use the audio loops which are there. If you buy the premium pack, you also get some warped samples which I've put through a Tascam 4-track cassette recorder and an old Casio SK1 vintage 8-bit sampler. We've also got lo-fi tape drums, which is a collection of drum loops and one-shots and Atmos and other things like that, all processed with cassette tape to give it that vintage crunchy feel. And also, if you want to check out the Lo-Fi Lab, here we've got the free Lo-Fi Vibes synth, which is for the DS sampler, so that's Decent Sampler. So go and check that out over at tangerinesounds.com. Go and pick up your freebies and check out the premium packs as well. So let's get back to the video. Then we've got the keys, which I did actually mix down from a couple of tracks. So we had a keyboard patch, which was Spitfire Originals piano, Mrs. Mills piano, and then we had an organ patch, which was the Contact Soul Sessions, which I find really good for making vintage soul breaks. And yeah, this is what they sounded like together. Then after the keys we've got the bass, and this is the Contact Native Instruments Prime bass, set to a funk patch, Funk City, and this is the melodic version. So I'm just playing the bass in with MIDI, and quite a lot of effects on this track actually. I do sometimes find that this bass guitar, the prime bass, sometimes it lacks a little bit of low end, so I like to beef it up with a Brainworks sub filter, and this just really adds in some of those sub low frequencies that the instrument doesn't give you. And I found that really just works better with these kind of hip hop tracks. Let's play you a little bit of the bass. And without the sub filter. And with. There is also on here, you might notice there is a kickstart, which is just ducking the bass guitar at the low frequencies, and this is being triggered by the kick drum, just to give a bit more room for the kick drum itself. After the bass, we've got the drums, so let's have a listen to all of those in together. I've got a hats track as well, which is on its own. Super simple. What is also adding to these drums is a drum break, which has been filtered. Now, I believe it already came filtered. It's a loop from Splice, and it already had a filtered sound to it. Let's have a listen to that on its own. It had a bit more low end to it, but I filtered all that out. And then when you mix it in with the rest of the drums, just gives it a bit more of a groove. There's not much going on with the hi-hats. So next we've got quite a few tracks of scratching samples, again from Splice. We'll have a listen to some of those.
Hey yo.
So they're just there for a little bit of ear candy, and then on top of that we've got more ear candy from things like drum fills, laser effects, crash, effects, risers, downlifters, impacts. Yeah, let's have a listen to all of those. Very important to have effects like these because they really help give you that rise and fall in energy at certain points in the track. So that is the main structure of the track. There are a couple of other things going on. One of the main samples at the beginning is this. Again, that's just a sample from Splice, but it worked really well with the build up for the intro, and I used it again as the breakdown ends and we go back into the main verse. A lot of the work that's done with this track is searching for different samples that all work together, and not only to make sure that they fit in with the chord progressions, but also the timing of them is quite crucial. I've studied a lot of these type of tracks for upbeat hip hop. It is all about the timing of the samples as well as the type of sample that you're using. It's also about keeping up that high energy and excitement, and also making it feel like this was actually sampled from a old soul or funk record, and making it a little bit more interesting in some way, adding extra value to it, and keeping the listener interested throughout. So I hope you found this useful, and I hope I've inspired you to try out some of this upbeat hip-hop. I'll give a shout out to Stephen Beddle at the Production Music Academy. I first got into this type of music through taking one of his courses there, which is on upbeat hip-hop production. So you can check that out over at his website. I'll leave a link in the description. Highly recommend Stephen's tutorials. They're very insightful and useful for any aspiring producer. So that's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.